Welcome to Mind Clarity. If you're ready to stop chasing worth, release what's been weighing you down, and finally align with the power already within you, then this message is for you. And if you truly resonate with this journey, consider becoming a member of Mind Clarity to go deeper into transforming your inner world and ultimately your entire life. You're not here to prove anything. You're not here to outshine anyone or compete for worth. You're not here to win some invisible race. Your only real purpose is to learn how to genuinely love yourself, to recognize without doubt how extraordinary you already are. And when I say love yourself, I don't mean casually or occasionally. I mean deeply, honestly, in a way where you truly feel your own value. That's what was meant when Saint Germain shared that message with me. That all it really takes is spending just 15 minutes in a state of appreciation for the I am presence within you. Just 15 minutes of acknowledging the life, the awareness, the power that you already carry. One of the teachings that challenged me for a long time comes from the I am discourse. It explains that if you want to transform your life, you have to look inward and notice the patterns you're holding on to. What habits are you repeating? What thoughts are you feeding? And most importantly, what needs to be released? Because the truth is, as long as you continue to judge, criticize, or condemn yourself or anyone else, you limit your own freedom. Real growth begins the moment you stop allowing those patterns to exist within you. Your real work isn't to fix the world. It's to bring harmony into your own inner world. And you can't do that while focusing on what's wrong with others. The moment you see flaws everywhere, you reinforce them within yourself. This doesn't mean ignoring what's happened in the world or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing not to carry judgment in your heart. Even when it comes to people who have done terrible things, holding on to condemnation only binds you to that energy. I learned this lesson the hard way. For a long time, there was something I deeply wanted to manifest, but it just wouldn't come together, and I couldn't understand why. Eventually, I realized that I was holding resentment towards someone connected to that situation. I was judging them constantly, even if I didn't say it out loud. Everything changed when I made the decision to let go of that judgment. That realization led me to one of the most powerful moments of my life. Back in 1974, I found myself standing at my father's grave. He had left my mother and us when we were young, and I had carried anger toward him for years. I didn't even know he had passed away until much later. When I went there, I was filled with bitterness. I was ready to express all the resentment I had been holding on to. But as I stood there, something unexpected happened. I felt this quiet pull to come back and face what I was really carrying inside. Looking at his name on that marker, his life reduced to 2 dates, it hit me differently. In that moment, something softened inside me. The anger began to dissolve, and I found myself saying, "From this moment forward, I choose to send you love. Who am I to judge you? You did the best you could with what you knew and the life you lived. I accept you." That moment changed everything. There's a quote often attributed to Mark Twain that says, "Forgiveness is like a fragrance a flower releases onto the heel that crushed it." That's what it felt like. Not weakness, freedom. From that day on, my life shifted in ways I couldn't have imagined. The habits that were holding me back started to fall away. I stopped drinking. I took better care of my body. My thinking became clearer. My writing improved. Opportunities started showing up. But none of that happened because I forced it. It happened because I finally let go of what was weighing me down. And that's the real message here. When you release judgment, when you choose love over resentment, you create space for everything you've been trying to attract. Not because you're chasing it, but because you're no longer blocking it. It all starts within you, always. I went back to New York and continued my work as a professor at St. John's University, but something inside me had already begun to change. Not long after, I took a short trip to Fort Lauderdale, checked into a small motel, and within just 2 weeks, I wrote a book that would completely shift my life. From that point forward, everything started to transform. My eating habits improved, my routines changed, my mindset became clearer, because I had finally released the anger that had been sitting inside me for so long. You see, if you want to attract the kind of life you truly desire, you have to understand something very important. You don't manifest what you want, because wanting comes from a place of lack. You manifest what you are. Your inner state is what shapes your outer reality. There are forces, call them guidance, call them higher intelligence, that are always available to support you. But they can only connect with you when you're in alignment with them. If you're filled with anger, resentment, judgment, fear, or stress, that connection becomes blocked. Those qualities don't match the energy of guidance, love, or clarity. So the work becomes simple, but not always easy. You have to let go of all of that and return to a place of love. Not selective love, but a deeper, more complete kind of love. A state where you hold compassion, not just for the people you like, but for everyone. That's what real growth looks like. That's what it means to truly evolve as a human being. And there are a few principles that help bring this into your life. The first is recognizing the incredible gift you've been given, your imagination. It's one of the most powerful tools you have, and it belongs entirely to you. You can place any idea in it, create any scenario, and experience any possibility within it. There's a beautiful thought that says the world is filled with the presence of something greater, but only those who are aware of it truly notice. Others move through life distracted, missing what's right in front of them. It's always your choice how you see things. Your imagination is limitless. No one can control what you choose to think or picture in your mind. Even Einstein spoke about how imagination holds more power than knowledge. He believed that nurturing imagination, especially in children, was one of the greatest gifts you could give them. That's why storytelling, creativity, and wonder are so important. They expand what we believe is possible. The second principle is learning to live as if your desire has already happened. Whatever you've imagined, you must begin to feel and act as though it's already part of your life. Not based on what others say, not based on current circumstances, but based on your inner knowing. When I was once given a serious diagnosis, I received endless messages filled with fear and limitation. People told me what was possible and what wasn't based on their beliefs. But I realized something. I didn't have to accept any of it. In my mind, I could simply choose what I allowed in. Think of it like having a mental delete button. Whenever something negative, limiting, or fear-based comes your way, you don't have to hold on to it. You can let it go instantly. You don't need to store every opinion or prediction someone gives you. The third principle is about feeling. It's not enough to just think about what you want. You have to feel it as if it's already real. Every feeling you experience sends a signal to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious is incredibly powerful. It's where your habits, beliefs, and patterns are formed. If you want to change your life, you have to start by influencing that deeper part of your mind. Here's something simple but powerful you can begin doing immediately. Every night before you fall asleep, take the last few minutes of your day and use them intentionally. This is one of the most important moments because your subconscious mind becomes more open as you drift into sleep. If you spend that time replaying everything that went wrong, thinking about stress, conflict, or disappointment, you're feeding those experiences into your subconscious. And then, for the next several hours while you sleep, your mind continues to process and reinforce those patterns. So when you wake up, you naturally step back into the same emotional state you carried into sleep. But imagine doing the opposite. Imagine using those final moments to focus on what you're grateful for, what you're becoming, and what your life looks like when everything aligns. That's how you begin to reprogram your inner world. And when your inner world changes, your outer world has no choice but to follow. When you fall asleep each night, you're not just resting your body, you're reconnecting with something much deeper. You return to what can be called the universal subconscious, the greater mind that we all come from. You can call it God, spirit, divine intelligence, or anything else, but no name can fully capture it. Every single one of us is simply an individual expression of that one source. Because of that, you have to become very aware of how you are influencing your subconscious mind, especially before sleep. There's an idea expressed in ancient scripture that says, when you are in deep rest, something within you opens up and receives instruction. In that quiet state, your mind becomes highly receptive. What you impress upon it in those final moments before sleep gets carried deep within you. That means the last few minutes of your day are incredibly powerful. What you think about, what you feel, and what you repeat to yourself during that time becomes the blueprint your subconscious follows. So instead of going to bed replaying stress, fear, or frustration, you can choose something different. You can begin to place intentional thoughts into your mind, simple, powerful statements that align with who you truly are. Saying things like, I am at peace, I am fulfilled, I am strong, I am abundant, begins to shape your inner world in a new way. If you just close your eyes and allow yourself to settle into that space, you can even guide yourself through something deeper. You can remind yourself that you are more than your circumstances, that at your core, you are pure awareness, something that has always existed and will continue to exist. There is a quiet place within you that already knows everything you need, a place that is calm, certain, and steady. It's connected to that universal intelligence, and it responds to you when you trust it. The answers you're searching for aren't outside of you. They are already moving toward you, even now. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to force solutions or stress over outcomes. When the time is right, clarity will arrive. Your role is to release the need to control everything and trust that the process is working in your favor. You can take everything that feels heavy, your worries, your problems, your unanswered questions, and hand them over to that higher intelligence. Let them go completely, knowing that the right answers will come back to you at the right time. There's a natural law at work here. When you align your belief with what you desire, life begins to respond. What you need starts to show up, not through struggle, but through alignment. It's not about pushing harder, it's about believing more deeply. Look around you. The same intelligence that created nature, the trees, the rivers, the sky, is present within you as well. That creative force isn't separate from you. It lives through you, and you can draw on it whenever you need guidance, healing, or clarity. Even your body is an expression of that same energy. At its core, it is designed in perfection. And when you begin to see yourself that way, your relationship with yourself changes. Life becomes something you enjoy, not something you fight against. Each day becomes proof of something greater unfolding through you. You begin to feel steady, confident, and calm, no matter what's happening around you. And when challenges appear, and they will, you start to see them differently. Instead of accepting them as permanent obstacles, you recognize them as temporary illusions. They don't define you, and they don't control what's possible for you. Because when you are connected to that higher awareness, nothing outside of you has the final say. There's a deeper lesson in all of this. It's about remembering who you really are beneath all the noise and distractions. Even great works of literature have hinted at this truth, that within every person there is a peaceful center, untouched and whole, even if it's surrounded by confusion or struggle. At every moment in your life, you're making a choice. You can either align yourself with that higher part of you, the part that is calm, loving, and connected, or you can stay trapped in the ego, which is driven by fear, control, and separation. The choice is always yours. You can become a channel for something greater, or you can remain caught in patterns that limit you. But once you understand this, you realize that your life isn't controlled by outside forces. It's shaped by what you choose to hold within. And that's where your true power begins. When you really sit with this idea, it starts to shift how you see everything. Most people spend their lives trying to fix the outside world, changing situations, people, outcomes, thinking that once those things improve, they'll finally feel at peace. But this teaching flips that completely. It says your inner state is the cause, not the result. What you consistently feel, believe, and accept as true within yourself becomes the filter through which life organizes around you. That's why the emphasis on the subconscious mind is so important. It's not just some abstract concept, it's the part of you that quietly runs your patterns. It doesn't argue, it doesn't question, it simply accepts whatever you repeatedly impress upon it. If you keep feeding it fear, doubt, or resentment, it treats those as instructions. And then, without you even realizing it, your reactions, your decisions, and even your opportunities begin to reflect that conditioning. But the empowering part is that this can be changed. Not overnight in a forced way, but gradually, through awareness and consistency. The moment you become conscious of what you're thinking and feeling, you interrupt the old pattern. And when you replace it with something intentional, something aligned with peace, confidence, or clarity, you begin to rewire that deeper layer of your mind. This is why the moments before sleep are emphasized so much. During the day, your mind is busy, distracted, pulled in many directions. But at night, as you begin to relax, the boundary between your conscious and subconscious mind becomes thinner. You're more open, more impressionable. It's like planting seeds into soft soil instead of hard ground. If, in that state, you choose to feel gratitude, to imagine your life as already resolved, already aligned, already complete, those impressions sink in deeply. Over time, they start to feel natural. And once something feels natural to you, it stops feeling like a goal and starts feeling like your identity. That's where the real shift happens. Because you don't act from what you want, you act from who you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone who is constantly struggling, you'll unconsciously recreate situations that match that identity. But if you begin to see yourself as someone who is supported, guided, and capable, your actions and reactions begin to reflect that instead. Another important part of this is letting go of control. Not in a passive way, but in a trusting way. People often try to force outcomes, constantly checking, worrying, and overthinking. But that comes from a place of doubt. It's like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to see if it's growing. That kind of energy disrupts the process. Trust doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing your part internally, choosing your state, choosing your perspective, and then allowing life to respond in its own timing. There's a natural intelligence at work that sees a bigger picture than you can. When you stop interfering with it through fear and resistance, it begins to move more freely. You'll also notice that as you practice this, your sensitivity to your own energy increases. You start to recognize when you're slipping into judgment, negativity, or tension. And instead of staying there, you gently bring yourself back. Not with force or self-criticism, but with awareness. This is where self-love becomes practical, not just a nice idea. Loving yourself means being aware of what you're feeding your mind. It means choosing not to entertain thoughts that harm you. It means forgiving yourself when you fall back into old patterns and simply returning to a better state. Over time, this creates a kind of inner stability. You're no longer completely thrown off by external events because your sense of self isn't dependent on them. You begin to feel grounded, even when things around you are uncertain. And from that place, something interesting happens. You don't feel the same urgency or desperation to get things anymore. Not because you don't care, but because you already feel whole. And ironically, that's when things begin to come together more easily. It's a quiet transformation, not always dramatic on the surface at first, but very real. Your thoughts become calmer. Your reactions become more intentional. Your presence changes, and gradually, your life starts reflecting that shift.
So it's not about becoming someone else. It's about removing what isn't really you, the fear, the doubt, the old conditioning, and returning to a state that was always there underneath. As you go deeper into this, one subtle but powerful shift happens. You begin to notice that most of your thoughts aren't actually you. They're just patterns you've been repeating for years. They were shaped by past experiences, other people's opinions, cultural conditioning, and moments where you reacted emotionally and never fully let go. Once you see that, you gain a kind of distance from them.
Instead of automatically believing every thought, you start observing them. And that space between you and your thoughts is where your freedom is. Because if you can observe a thought, it means you're not controlled by it. You can choose whether to continue it or replace it. This is especially important with identity-based thoughts, the quiet assumptions you carry about who you are. Things like, I'm not good at this, things never work out for me, or I always struggle. These aren't facts, they're reinforced ideas. And the more you repeat them, the more your subconscious treats them as instructions to follow. So the work becomes less about forcing new beliefs and more about gently questioning the old ones. You don't have to fight them aggressively. Just noticing them and not feeding them already weakens them over time. Another layer of this is emotional consistency. A lot of people try to think positively, but they still feel anxious, doubtful, or tense underneath. The subconscious responds more to feeling than to words. So if there's a mismatch, positive thoughts on the surface but fear underneath, the deeper feeling usually wins. That's why practices that help you feel calm and centered are so valuable. Even something as simple as slowing your breathing, sitting quietly, or stepping away from constant stimulation can help you return to a more balanced state. From there, the thoughts you choose begin to carry more weight because they're supported by your emotional state. You might also start noticing how much external input affects you. The conversations you listen to, the content you consume, the environments you spend time in, they all leave impressions. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, urgency, or comparison, it becomes harder to maintain a clear inner state. So part of this path is becoming more intentional about what you allow in. Not in a restrictive or fearful way, but in a selective, aware way. You begin to choose inputs that support the kind of mind you want to cultivate. There's also an important balance between intention and detachment. You can be very clear about what you want to experience: peace, success, connection, growth. But at the same time, you don't tie your sense of worth or stability to whether it happens immediately. That attachment is what creates pressure. When you hold an intention lightly, with trust instead of tension, it creates a different kind of momentum. You're still moving forward, still taking action where it feels right, but you're not driven by fear of lack. You're moving from a place of already feeling aligned. And over time, your relationship with uncertainty changes. Instead of seeing it as something uncomfortable or threatening, you begin to see it as space where new things can emerge. You become less reactive and more receptive. One of the deeper realizations people have when they stay with this long enough is that the future they were chasing starts to feel less important than the state they're cultivating right now. Because when your present state is peaceful, clear, and grounded, you're already experiencing what you thought you needed the future to give you. From there, goals don't disappear, but they become expressions instead of solutions. You pursue things because they feel aligned, not because you're trying to fix something inside yourself. And that's a very different way to live. It removes a lot of hidden pressure. You may still have moments where old patterns come back: doubt, frustration, impatience. Everything comes back to this simple truth. You are not here to chase, struggle, or become worthy. You are here to remember that you already are. When you release judgment, let go of past pain, and align your thoughts, feelings, and imagination with love, you step into your true power. The life you seek begins to unfold naturally, not because you force it, but because you finally become it. Trust the quiet intelligence within you, nurture it, and let it guide your path. When you change what you hold inside, everything outside begins to transform with it.